But the first thing that jumped out to me, and I just don't understand this at all, after the game, and I will rehash 2 or 3 things that drove me nuts from the last game, but after the game, Davante Adams, who's been here for 2 minutes, felt compelled to speak to the entire locker room and basically tell them, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but this is awful. I just want, let that resonate with people for a second. And Davante Adams is amazing, and I think he's a very diligent pro. However, and a great player, Hall of Famer. But he wasn't a good pro with the Raiders. He quit on the Raiders. So just think about this. You have a guy, no matter how good he is, and again, he's amazing, and he's Rodgers' boy. I get that. He comes in, he takes one look, and he just levies a wrecking ball to the culture of the Jets. How pathetic is that? Frighteningly, it's actually gotten worse than I think, certainly I and many of you thought that it was, because, you react to all the nonsense during the games, and of course, Saleh's firing and downing and, everything else with Hackett, right? We've hit that thing a million times. I didn't think it was this bad. Now, the record aside, that's bad. But just think about that. Imagine going to a new place of employment. Now, granted, in your new place of employment, one person who's the most important person in the building. Let's face it, Aaron Rodgers has all the juice and nobody else has none. And by the way, it's completely disjointed. It shouldn't be like that, the balance of power. We all know that, but it is. But imagine going into a new law firm, or you're a coach and you know the AD, but you don't know anybody else, or whatever your line of work might be. And you feel as if you have, and I don't mind this, but that you have the latitude to speak on the issues that are so deeply rooted that you just can't bite your tongue. That is disgraceful. Now, I want to make something else clear. When you do terrestrial radio, and you guys hear me and Sal every day on the fan from 10 to 2, there's just certain words you can't say. Can't say them. You get banged out by the FCC, you get fined. Now, while it's fun to curse, I'm not going to lie, it is. Makes me feel a little bit better. It's cathartic. I think many of you would agree with that, especially watching this shit-ass team. I'm not going to just gratuitously drop, curses just to do it. Because I think, and I've always thought, and I don't claim to be brilliant, but I take pride in having a modicum of intelligence. I think, that kind of language is really a disguise for a lack of intelligence. So I'm not just going to drop F-bombs here and just turn into a raving lunatic unnecessarily. But I will say this. I'm going to drop one right here. To do that and to walk into your new place of employment while you have massive stones to do that, it's a fucking joke. It is an absolute joke that was even necessary. Imagine that. One guy, you come in, you look 53 men in the eyes. Again, it takes brass balls, and he's got the equity around the league to do it. I'm not mad at Davante, but does that not underscore the bigger issue with the Jets? The culture. There is no culture. What? I was going to try to describe the culture. There's zero culture. And speaking of culture, all right? So Aaron Rodgers, who goes on the McAfee show once a week, and speaking of vocabulary and intelligence, always feels the need to incessantly drop words that most people or some people don't even know what they mean. And, that's cute when he first got traded here. And, that was, I guess it was somewhat therapeutic when he went down against the Bills in week 1. And then when there was a thought, hey, maybe Aaron Rodgers is coming back and he's going to defy modern medicine with the new Achilles procedure, that little fastening of it's a different procedure. So there was a thought that maybe he can actually do it. You tuned in and you're hanging on every word. You know what? It's not fun. You know what? It's not pertinent. You know what? It doesn't matter when you suck. And right now, Aaron Rodgers sucks. The Aaron Rodgers train has gotten them nowhere. And as I used the word culture before, now it is time. It is time right now for Garrett Wilson, for Sauce, to the younger players who are going to be here for a while, to stop kissing his ass. And I'm not a big proponent of, as a matter of fact, I can't stand this, when wide receivers, most of whom are divas, obviously. And of course, if they don't get the rock, they're not going to get paid because they're not putting up the numbers. And when you put up numbers, you get paid. We all get that. But I don't like, I never have, I'm kind of old school in this regard. You don't just flail your arms up and show up the quarterback and I was open and just start barking at people, quarterbacks and coordinators on the sideline. I don't think that's how a good, well-oiled machine should comport themselves. However, it is now time for Garrett Wilson and anybody else that's open. It's okay. You can bark at the almighty Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers has played like shit. Go back the other night. Now, think about how they looked to start the game against the Steelers. Man, they look pretty good. You got Brees in space. You have some things cooking. I'm like, all right, here we go. The place was quiet. The Jets did a very effective job of muting one of the toughest venues along with Arrowhead and 2 or 3 others in the NFL. That place had 75,000 zombies in it. There was no juice on offense. Russell Wilson was doing nothing. He looked old. He looked tired. And the Jets looked like they had a little pop. They had a little snap, right? And then you're up 9 points. And this is why Aaron Rodgers can talk all he wants about whatever he wants to talk about. He's just not getting the job done. When you're up 15-6, I believe it was a 19-yard back shoulder throw to Lazard. Beautiful throw. And listen, he's Rodgers, so he can spin it, and he made some sick throws. And he has from week 1, even against the Niners, a couple of good ones. But you're at your own 40. You're up by 9. There's a $140 to go, and you throw an unforgivable interception. That's it, man. Now the cat's out the bag. Whatever momentum and whatever destination you and I and we all thought that the Aaron Rodgers train would get us to, that's done. So now everybody's got to get out of the caboose and jump up to the front of the train and get their hands on the steering wheel. And if that means if Rodgers, throws one in the dirt or doesn't see somebody who's wide open on a go route or any route, crossing route, deep shallow, doesn't matter. If he misses somebody, and that somebody particularly is Garrett Wilson, who I feel he's trying to certainly assimilate, which I get. And again, I respect as a pro, but he's not a rookie. I can't stand when rookies bark at quarterbacks. You have no right to do that. Not a second-year guy. He's a third-year guy. Now, I don't think Garrett Wilson's great. I think some people do. I think he's really good. Maybe with a chance to be great. But he's certainly earned the right to let Aaron Rodgers know you're not doing your job. You know what I mean? I think there's too much sitting around and waiting and hoping that St. Aaron is going to elevate this team from the dead. Newsflash, he's not. He's not good enough anymore. He's 40. Every week, it's the hamstring, it's the ankle, it's the knees, limping left and right. He's a complete non-threat to leave the pocket, which schematically is a different set of issues for the Jets because you don't have to coach from a defensive perspective against one thing. So to me, like there's a lot of problems, man. And let's face it. Does anybody really think that this season's going to go where we want it to go? Probably not. Now look down. See where it says unkillable? Again, I told you this the first episode. The essence of the unkillable mantra is me like a lunatic getting on the air the Monday after the Bills game, refusing to accept what I knew was a reality, but I couldn't tap out and I wasn't packing it in, especially since they won the game. And especially at that point where I'm like, all right, I mean, it's year 3 for Zach. Maybe he takes the next step. He didn't, but the unkillable, as much as I say the season's probably over, and it likely is, there's going to be so many deep dives with NFL people on this podcast about who they need to hire, what coach, what GM, all the things that they need to do. Now, last episode, I also railed on the owner. It's not personal. I've met Woody Johnson. He's a sweetheart of a human being. He's an atrocious owner. So as I look at this, right, and we will we will die our deaths on football Sundays. We already have five times this year. We will die our slow deaths on Sunday Night Football and Monday and Thursday. That's inevitable. Until it changes, that is our sad lot in life. All right? You know it, and I know it. But the unkillable mantra is we will never give up. So this is part therapeutic, this pod. This is part just let it rip. And when you let it rip, sometimes you feel better. This is part solution-based. A little bit of everything, all right?